Governor of Maine? Well, are you not going to comply with it?
I'm complying with state and federal laws.
We are the federal law. Well, you better do it. You better do it because you're not going to get any federal funding at all if you don't. And by the way, your population, even though it's somewhat liberal, although I did very well there, your population doesn't want men playing in women's sports. So you better comply because otherwise you're not getting any federal funding.
See you in court.
Every state, good. I'll see you in court. I look forward to that. That should be a real easy one. And enjoy your life after governor because I don't think you'll be in elected politics.
Sorry, it was that last part. Enjoy your life afterwards. I didn't know where Trump was going with that. I got to show you the caption for this. So I hope that was loud enough because you couldn't really hear what the governor of Maine was saying in the backdrop. All right. Where do we start with this? That was Donald Trump. I forget what President Trump addresses governors at White House, invited the governors, basically said, you're going to comply with executive orders and federal law, or you ain't going to get any federal funding. This particular executive order that the governor of Maine, a woman, if she must have been, she must have had access to a biologist who confirmed what she was, says, we're going to abide by state and federal law, to which Trump, but this is as relates to not letting men, boys, play in women's, girls' sports, to which he says, I am the federal law. This guy, Tim Walker, don't know him from, never seen him before. Let me see this here. It says, Tim Walker, at that Tim Walker, a point of view. He's on Blue Sky. Well, that explains everything. That Tim Walker, .bsky.social. BSKY, the platform that had such a problem with CSAM that the moderators couldn't respond to requests fast enough. Okay, so this guy's chumming it around with the potato files on Blue Sky, but set that aside. He literally, unironically tweets, in a room full of men, it's the lone woman that has the courage. First of all, dumbass, how are you even able to identify what a woman is? This is the lone woman in a room full of men. Are there no other female governors there? Saying that she's going to defy Donald Trump's executive order to not let men and boys compete in women's and girls' sports. So she's got the courage, all right. Do you know what that proves right there? That you have an irrational idiot of a woman. I just see her as a human, but interesting that he sees her as a woman, being an idiot. If you see things through the spectrum of identity politics, gender politics, racial politics, you might look at that lone woman and say that she is a batshit crazy idiot. Doesn't understand the law, doesn't understand biology, doesn't understand basic justice, doesn't understand actual women's rights. And you got to love Trump saying, well, that's it. Good. Don't do it. No federal funding. Oh, what's that? You think you're a spoiled, rotten brat and you get to get your parental allowance without having to follow your parental rules? I'm sorry. Did you forget about the way the legal system works? Yeah, feds, we want that money. We're just not going to follow your laws. We're going to enact sanctuary cities. We're going to protect illegal aliens from federal law enforcement, but still give us some of that sweet sugar because we're a bunch of spoiled, rotten, juvenile brats. Not necessarily the image that you want to be projecting as the lone woman in the room, to the extent that she was that. So congrats, Governor of Maine. We all knew you're an idiot. Was it the Secretary of State of Maine that tried to remove Trump from the ballot? Yeah. No federal funding for you. Not complicated. You do what the feds ask, or you don't get the sweet gravy that comes from the feds. Only a child would say, I don't like you. I'm not following your rules, but give me that money. Which is exactly what she's saying. Now, by the way, just, on the issue of women, girls, you never thought you'd ever going to hear Viva start a rant against the Girl Scouts. I got to tell you something. I'm angry. Nobody can say no to the Girl Scouts. They come, they ring your doorbell, they say, we're raising money. It's a cute little kid. Like, oh, yeah, we're raising money. Who could say no? Why are they selling cookies? What year are we in? They're still selling cookies. You can't say no to a kid when they're selling cookies. You can't say no to the Girl Scouts. So, all right, well, $20. You can't do less than $20. Otherwise, you're a cheap bastard. What can I get for $20? Well, sir, you can get 3 boxes of cookies that you don't want, that have ingredients that you don't like. So my wife, PhD, not very impressed with the ingredients. Listen to this. I got 3 boxes of these. I'm either going to go give them to a neighbor or I'm going to burn them, because with that level of sugar and what's the word I'm looking for? Carbs in there. Those will be good fire starters. It might be cheaper than the fire starter I get. I want to sell carrots, sell oregano. not oregano. Yeah, oregano. No, not oregano. Cilantro is what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of the dried. Sell cilantro. I will buy 4 bushels of cilantro for twice the price of 1 box of cookies. Ingredients. Sugar. That's great. It's number 1 ingredient. Vegetable oil. I don't even know what that is. Enriched flour. These are 3 shite ingredients back to back to back. Vitamin B, too good. Folic acid, fine. Corn syrup. Coconut. I hate coconut. Do you all know why I hate coconut? If I haven't told the story, I'll save it for another day. I hate coconut. Sweetened condensed milk, sugar, whatever the heck. What else? What else do we get in here? I don't even know what this is. Leavening. Okay, good. Garbage. Garbage. Girl Scouts, sell something healthy. But I'm happy to support you nonetheless. So from the irrational lone woman in the room to Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, get some healthy stuff. Raise some money with it. You'll raise more money. Get some Amos Miller vegetables. I will pay much more for that. I got these things. Cookies. Cookies. Good evening, everybody. This is Viva Fry, David Freiheit, Montreal litigator turned current Florida Rumbler on our Sunday night law extravaganza show. We've got a doozy for everybody tonight. Let me make sure that we are live across all platforms. I believe that we are live across Rumble. We are live on CommieTube. And we are live on vivabarneslaw.locals.com, where I see everyone in Barnes, please save us. All right. That is the intro rant. I got another good one, which we're going to get to in a second. But before we even get there, I do want to bring up our sponsor of the evening and figure I had to cuss out the children. I'm not cussing out the children, but okay, that's it. Done. Our sponsor of the evening, people, The Wellness Company. I need to make sure to play the video this time so that we watch this while we're talking about it. Elon Musk's dedication to DOGE, by the way, he will likely uncover spending on weather modification. What's her face? Just Shanahan was just talking about this. Weather modification has played apparently potentially a major role in the decline of people's health. Influx of sickness taking over America is not natural. We've also seen this fog, which contains something called Serratia marcescens, a bacteria, in the samples tested. With the Wellness Company's medical emergency kit, you can tackle the serious health concerns and potentially avoid hospitalizations, or at least until a doctor can see you. This beautiful compact blue case right there on your right. It carries medicines like ivermectin, Z-Pak, amoxicillin, 6 other essential prescription medications. They will be right at the tips of your fingers when you need them. You can literally order it from your couch in a matter of minutes, hopefully while you're not eating those Girl Scout cookies. The process is fully digital. Their medical board created a guidebook that outlines common treatments for UTIs, urinary tract infections, strep throat, bacterial infections, respiratory illnesses, and more. It takes a matter of minutes to fill out online. Digital intake form, you fill it out 1 to 2 weeks. The kit arrives at your door. Don't let illness catch you off guard. Order your kit now by heading to twc.health/Viva. Promo code Viva gets you $30 off and free shipping. And by the way, kits are only available in the US. So me scusies to my Canadian counterparts, twc.health/Viva. And the link is in the description. All right, now I wanted to start with the other rant, but I wasn't sure if it would last too long for an intro rant. If you haven't been following the news, people, Enrique Tarrio gave a press conference with some of other Proud Boys with Ivan Raiklin Friday in D.C. I like Enrique Tarrio, period, full stop. Nobody's perfect. Some people are more perfect than others. I don't even know what the hell that means. Nobody's perfect. I like Enrique Tarrio. So full disclosure. He was given a press conference, and the video that went viral was of him. This is where the video starts, and we'll watch it. Allegedly, apparently, ostensibly slapping a phone out of a woman's hand. And then the woman swiftly demands that Enrique Tarrio be arrested, which, this being DC, in DC, where right in front of DC police, where he was just pardoned for his egregious, non-existent, seditious conspiracy, they proceed to arrest him. They arrest him, and they actually charged him with simple assault, I believe, and released him the same day. Thank goodness. When I saw this and I texted him and was like, dude, when do you get out? Because hopefully they're not going to detain you for denied bail. This is the video, and I'm not going to play the whole thing because it's long, but this is the moment, and we're going to get into this.
Dude, I'd like to pass the phone.
Come on, no, you threw the phone out.
I'd like to.
Dude.
I'd like to pass the phone.
Come on, no, you threw the phone out.
I'd like to.
Come here.
There you go. Oh, they're doing their job. All right, that's the moment. Okay, so we don't know what happens. It's right as he, let's just go super slow motion. Why the hell is she that close to him, touching him, doing Lord knows what, and he smacks it. Okay, doesn't know what it is. All right, that's the video. And this woman, if you didn't know anything any better, you wouldn't know that she's a toxic, as far as I'm concerned, assaulty, provocateur, harasser, stalker. Listen. So that's the video there. What you don't see in that particular video is the woman from before. Listen to this. This is, you'll hear her in the backdrop using a bullhorn to harass and forget the insults, harass and use audible loud noises for the purposes of assault.
Listen, are you gonna let her just keep standing there?
Yeah, right.
I am.
You literally did. Stop fight for me, Nazis!
That's her.
I like harassment. She's harassing us.
She did that. I saw there was a 2-hour live stream of the entire event, and I watched it with extreme interest. The woman is batshit crazy lunatic who was sitting there stalking, harassing, screaming in their ears, getting in their face, sticking her phone, making contact with persons. And she did that for a solid 2 hours before, from what I understand happened, she touched Enrique with her phone, and he didn't know what it was, and he slapped it out of her hand or shoved it away from him and got swiftly arrested. I'm live. Can you close the door, please? And that's what happened. Now, people don't know, but using loud noise things in proximity to someone's ear is assault. Forget the harassment, forget everything else. The only problem is the woman was going around looking for that reaction. She spent 2 hours trying to get it. And Enrique, in a moment of weakness or in a moment of confusion where he put up with it for so long, why wouldn't he put up with it for another 5 minutes? From what I understand, didn't know what was touching him and thought for someone who had already been stabbed in the abdomen by Antifa at a prior protest, didn't know what the hell this psycho biatch was doing, and smacked what was ever in her hands that was making contact with his body out of her hands. He was released the same day. From what I understand, they did in fact press charges, and they haven't dropped the charges. But the consensus is that they will, because it's a load of crap, and this woman is exactly what she appears to be, a batshit crazy person looking to get that rise out. Just following them around for 2 hours, interfering with their press conference. The DC police do absolutely nothing while she's using a bullhorn in certain times to scream in people's ears, a whistle to scream in people's faces. The DC police do nothing. And then the moment Enrique Tarrio slaps a phone out of her hand, if whatever he knew that it was, well, then they sprint into action. Those big bad men come to protect the wee victim woman. But the problem is, people are going to want to see Enrique back in jail, and they're going to do everything within their power, within the realms of the law, to make sure that he does something, snaps or whatever, to make that happen, because that is going to be their absolute wish list. All right, until Barnes gets here, people. By the way it works is we're going to start live on Rumble, YouTube, Twitter, and vivabarneslaw.locals.com in about, I don't know, say at about an hour, maybe a little less. We're going to move on over, vote with our feet, vote with our eyeballs, and get on over to rumble.com. We're talking Rumble tonight because they've got a great lawsuit against the evil, we're going to call him Dr. Evil, Alexandre de Moraes out of Brazil. So that's the schedule. When Barnes gets here, we're gonna bring him in. But for now, we'll just cover some Rumble rants, super chats, and tip questions. Cheryl Gage says, if Adam Schiff really ends up in prison, I'll be so happy I'll buy even more Girl Scout cookies. I would not hold your breath for that to happen, but I'm going to float my legal theory with Barnes when he gets in here. Good luck in Seattle on Monday. This is Barnes has got a nasty trial tomorrow starting in Seattle. We're going to talk about that. Are you in communication with Tim Eyman and We the Govern? Would love to see you have either of them on. They might be able to help connect you to local counsel. That is from August B37 over in vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Ashley St. Clair is a conservative thought psyop. That is all, says Bill Dozer. I'm not getting involved. I mean, I'm following it. It's fun in the sense that I won't call that grifting, but I do call that gossiping. The initial discussion when Ashley St. Clair announced that she had carried Elon Musk's baby was whether or not conservatives should congratulate a woman on having had a baby if that baby is out of wedlock. That was the original discussion. It's getting freaking serious from a Jerry Springer type perspective right now, because Ashley St. Clair put out the tweet I had this kid. You know, thank you, everyone. Congratulations, good for you, Mazel Tov, and nothing but happiness. Now it's not clear if she was honeypotting, Elon Musk, or Elon's not an idiot. He's done this with other people. It wouldn't be his first rodeo, pun intended. But it's getting wild because now you got Milo Yiannopoulos pulling up tweets from a while ago, making it look like this was a trap so that she could get pregnant, not unwittingly to Elon's plans, and then carry his baby. And now she's apparently making a motion in family court for sole custody. I can imagine I could steel man arguments as to why she maybe wants the baby not to grow up in the public light, like X, who's going to be in the political limelight. I can understand all that. It's gossipy. There's very little legal value to it. And at the end of the day, there's also a baby's life that's involved. But thank you for the tip question. We got Ticker over on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Wait until you find out how much glyphosate Roundup are in those Girl Scout cookies discovered after recent testing. Don't make me do that. Oh, God. We got Rusty Gus over on vivabarneslaw.locals.com. Viva, can you give a cute little Girl Scout your money without taking the toxic cookies? I was half inclined to do that, but I didn't want to look like that. That's an act of not disrespect, but I could have done that. I probably should have done that. Argentini Milei, Bitcoin drama. His sister taking money. Is there any truth to this? I haven't heard about his sister taking any money. Encryptus, maybe while we're live tonight, maybe Encryptus can see if there's any truth to that. My understanding thus far, and I've gotten mildly deep into it, is that Milei tweeted something out. He thought it was a viable project. Well, I should wait until Barnes gets here. Let me actually make sure that Barnes is coming. Now I'm getting nervous if he has his trial tomorrow. You're coming, comma, right? Question mark. LOL. We'll get into that. We'll get into that. Okay, now, what else did I have on the backdrop that we could use as the intro? Oh, here, just by way of an example, I'm gonna make sure to lower the volume on this. This is what the woman was doing the entire time. I'm not sure that this is the same one. This is what I mean by this is actual assault. I'm not even going to play this. All right. Okay, let's go see one more thing over here on CommieTube. We got David. Don't take the award to Vegas. Eric and Mark can buy Robert a new one, says Fletcher Boy. And then we're scrolling up here. We got Heart Tackle. I haven't seen you in a while, Heart. Hey, Viva. New box goodies on the way. Be in Miami and Boca end of May. If you're around, love to take you to dinner. Or we can go fishing. Like this is Heart Tackle, people. HART Tackle. Made in America. Great lures. Eclectic Deb says people have forgotten that the drinking age in the U.S. was set at 21 in the 1980s after feds threatened to restrict funding to states. I never knew that to begin with. Okay, I'm not reading that one either from there. And then what else do we got here? David. Okay, fine, we got that. All right, people. I had one other thing. We'll talk something Canadian until Robert gets here. Where is? Oh, okay. First things first. A good laugh. The left are they lack a sense of humor and they lack introspection, and therefore they're prone to make these types of mistakes. I presume that the community notes is largely left, still activist motivated on Twitter. People were freaking out all week that Trump fired a general of the military, and I had to get into this with who was it? Oh, it was that Russian propagandist guy again, Pekka Kelliomeni, who you won't believe the level of stupidity that exists within this world. Let me pull it up. Pekka Kelliomeni, the man who I will continue to needle on Twitter because he's an idiot. Here, hold on a second. And remorselessly, I shall continue. This is the expert on Russian disinformation who comes onto Twitter and does nothing but spew disinformation. Here, Pekka Kelliomeni. Listen to this. The original tweet, Pekka Kelliomeni says, first, take over the media. Replace officials and judges with loyalists. Silence the opposition, and then take over the military. I've never seen a country slide into authoritarianism so quickly. Firstly, What media has Trump taken over? I mean, if you think that we are the media now on Twitter, I can understand it. Fine. At least you're acknowledging that legacy media is dead, and rightly so. Replace officials and judges with loyalists, also known as appointments. You know, like when you got Ruth Bader Ginsburg on the bench. You know, when Joe Biden in his last week in office was ramming through federal judges. Silence the opposition. Well, they're doing a very bad job at that. And then take over the military. I'm not a constitutionalist. I'm just someone with half a brain. President of the United States of America is literally the commander-in-chief. You rapacious moron. The commander-in-chief doesn't take over the military. He has control over the military. He took control over the military when the American people gave him control over the military, when they elected him to be the president and commander-in-chief. That's Pekki Kilimani with his infinite wisdom. But then you get Jack Posobiec, who's a great troller on the interwebs, who comes in and says, this is the first time in US history a general has been fired. Anybody who knows Jack, and you know Jack, anybody who knows Jack, and anybody who understands tongue-in-cheek glib humor knows exactly that this was supposed to be sarcastic or a bait that the idiots took. Reader added context that you thought you might want to know. Presidents have fired generals before, idiots. Truman fired General MacArthur. Lincoln fired General McClellan. And even Obama fired General McChrystal. Take that, Jack. You've been community noted, biatch. And you guys absolutely missed the point of what was going on. Oh. Let's see what's going on here. Encryptus sent me something in the backdrop. Oh, here we go. Okay, let me bring this one up. Put it in the private chat. Here we go. We got it here. Let's bring this up live, and we're going to see this. Oh, boy. This doesn't look good if it looks like it's what it is. Libra, crypto scandal. Oh, okay. Oh, that sucks. Okay, hold on. Let's go like this. Archive. And we'll put it here. One more step. Okay, well, we're gonna do this. While it does this, it looks like there are allegations that his sister may have taken some money. Milei crypto. This is from Bloomberg. Take it with a grain of salt. Nobody likes Milei, and you knew that if they were going to make up these allegations, he gave them the grounds to do it. Milei crypto scandal widens with allegations against his sister. Meme coin investor reportedly bragged about paying Karina Milei. Argentine president facing biggest scandal of his term. Yeah, this hopefully the biggest scandal of his presidency, because this is serious. The political uproar over Argentine President Javier Milei's role in the crypto scandal has cast a spotlight on his closest advisor and gatekeeper, his sister, Hayden Davis, a key figure behind the Libra token, which surged, then crashed on Friday after Milei promoted it on X, bragged in a text message to another investor that he was paying Karina Milei to get the president to do his bidding, according to separate reports Tuesday by Argentina's Marque La Nación newspaper and crypto industry site CoinDesk. Davis, who hasn't responded to multiple requests for comment, denied to CoinDesk that he made payments to the president. It was also Karina who first took a meeting at the presidential palace with local crypto consultant Mauricio Novelli, who later introduced her brother to several of the parties involved in the meme coin, La Nación reported Sunday. Tokens crash, and the government's botched attempts to reclaim the narrative have snowballed into the biggest scandal the Libertarian has faced since taking power more than a year ago. First, it infuriated. So this is here. Let's go down here. An advisor to Karina Milei redirected Bloomberg's request for comments to Milei's chief spokesperson, who declined to comment on the news reports. Davis acknowledged in an interview with Barstool Sports on Monday that he made money from Libra and was seeking ways to make things right. He described the situation as a botched launch. Davis said he firmly believes Milei is not corrupt and said the money from the venture belongs to people on the Argentine president's team or whom he thought was Milei's team. Milei, too, has visited. Oh, boy. Well, that doesn't look good. All right. That does. We'll see. What she was paid for, what she was receiving monies for, what she thought she was receiving monies for. This is why you do business with scoundrels, and it's going to rub off badly, especially when there's a massive potential presidency-ending scandal like the one that we've seen. Now I'm getting nervous. Whenever Barnes is substantially late, I get nervous the Feds got him. Let me just double check with Robert and see what the deal is here. Did the feds get you? Question mark, LOL. All right, we'll see where that's going. In the meantime, people, let me start. I don't know if you didn't see what the interview that we had yesterday. We'll start with some Canadian law. The scandal that's brewing in Canada is that the Liberal Party is corrupt to the core, misogynist to the core. I'm saying that tongue in cheek. That they're corrupt to the core. And we're having the general election, or the general leadership race for the Liberal Party. Government's prorogued until March 24th. Justin Trudeau said he's going to resign. He will resign once his replacement has been appointed following a robust national leadership race. Okay. They're in the midst of that right now. And it would seem that they don't like the competition, because just like that, they've decided to disqualify the competition a woman named Rudy Dalla. You may or may not have known her. She's born in Winnipeg. Her parents are from India. I'm not exactly sure where. She says she's a liberal, but she's the policies that she espouses makes her more conservative than liberal, or certainly not within the standard Liberal Party as it exists today. They've unilaterally disqualified her, alleging that she engaged in some election finance problems. And I had her on yesterday. She actually, after the scandal broke, I reached out via DM and she graciously accepted. And she was actually a mildly reasonable person to talk to. Actually espouses mildly reasonable policy, deport illegal immigrants, zero tolerance on drugs, tough on crime. It's like, okay, why are you're not a liberal? At least you're not this Liberal Party. They kicked her out. Bull crap excuse. Unanimous decision within the party. No rules, no nothing, no transparency. They just kicked her out. I had her on yesterday. Listen to this. There are people in the chat suggesting, and it's not an implausible theory, that you were paraded as a woman, a minority, and was good for fundraising. And now that they've fundraised off of you, they can set you aside. What happens to the funds that you raised if they, in fact, disqualify you from the party? Do they go to the Liberal Party at large, or do they get refunded?
Well, firstly, I can tell you I never entered the race to be a pretty face or for any party to be able to check all the boxes, of having a woman of color, someone who is young. I entered this race to actually win it. And I entered this race to talk about progressive policy ideas that are the need of the hour, of our country. And it is really surprising to me that, as you have shared, that there was a $350,000, entry fee required for this race. The final date of that deadline was the 17th of February. And guess what? A few hours later, after the deposit fee was given, we were requested to have a meeting with various Liberal Party officials. It was after that fee was given. So I don't know if this was all pre-planned, and strategic, but I can tell you those hundreds of volunteers that contributed to my campaign, it was because they believed in the vision that Ruby Dalla had for the Liberal Party. That $350,000 was not being given to fill up the piggy banks or the pockets or the coffers of the Liberal Party of Canada. And now that they have made this decision, the Liberal Party needs to do the right thing, the honorable thing, what would be with the highest degree of integrity, and refund that $350,000 to those hardworking Canadians.
That's the end. She almost, I was thinking, am I getting played in that this is a way to make a Liberal candidate actually look like you could be able to vote for her? I don't think they're going to invite her back to the debate. The debate is tomorrow. It's Mark Carney, the WEF globalist pig that he is. 3 passports, by the way. 3 passports. He's running for Prime Minister of Canada. A man who has never been a sitting member of Parliament. A WEF goon who has loyalty apparently to England and Ireland is set to be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And he will be if he wins this leadership race, which is looking as curated as the Kamala Harris race, because it's not a federal election yet. The federal election comes afterwards. So this man, whoever replaces Justin Trudeau, will be the next Prime Minister of Canada. And it's going to be this scumbag WEF stooge with 3 passports. All right, Robert's in the backdrop. I see him, unless he's having camera problems. Let's bring him. He'll come in a second when he gets in here. Lots on the right are unduly harsh on Farage. Trump figured out he needs generals laterally and his admin loyal lieutenants down to enforce rules, and leaders like Bannon to enforce the message. Farage needs to learn the same lesson. I'm not sure what that's about, actually. But Robert, sir, how goes the battle? No, you're either on mute or your audio is not working. Oh, geez.
How about now?
Now I can hear you. Okay, and we'll let Encryptus tell us if the audio level is good. Sir, how are you doing? You're getting ready for some serious shenanigans tomorrow.
Yeah, fly out tonight to Seattle, Washington. There's a sentencing in the Seattle City Court, that's municipal court there, in the afternoon at 1:30. In case of the city versus City of Seattle versus Kurt Benshoof, Benshoof. And the city is, we'll talk about senseless in Seattle, this case combined with the county case, combined with other things that are happening in his cases. But the short answer is the city is seeking to put him in prison for 6 years up to 80 years or more, for simply talking to his son, responding to his son by text. That's literally it. And because they got a court to issue what I consider a patently unconstitutional no contact order, that's where we're at. But in the state of Washington, where murderers and rapists get low sentences, they're demanding 6 years or up to 80 years life imprisonment for simply talking to your own teenage son at his request. That's the insanity the city of Seattle has got to.
I never realized his last name is Benshoof. Is he German or Caucasian?
I mean, I guess he'd be listed in their system as Caucasian. You're from the Seattle area, very little, criminal history of any kind at all. Very few run-ins with the law until COVID. Objected to mask mandates and vaccine mandates, and his ex used that as an opportunity to use the legal system. And what the legal system ultimately did is they took away his car, then they took away his home, then they took away his son, and now they're trying to take away his liberty. And for what? Objecting basically to vaccine mandates and mask mandates, and using the legal system, or trying to use the legal system, to get relief or remedy. They say in the sentencing brief, judge, put him in prison because he sued judges. Put him in prison because he sued prosecutors. Put him in prison because he filed civil rights complaints. Put him in prison because he challenged our COVID orthodoxy. I mean, that's because they don't have any grounds to put him in prison otherwise. The typical sentence for this kind of issue is probation in Washington. Haven't found the city couldn't find a single case anywhere in the country where anybody's been in prison for this. And then there's the separate issue, big constitutional issue, of can they just circumvent your fundamental right to parent your own child by just issuing no contact orders instead? So you have a fundamental right to be a parent, and that means the right to care, control, and custody over your child. At a minimum, that requires contact. Imagine something that says, no, not only you can't care for your child, you have no control over your child, you have no custody over your child, you can't even have contact with your child, even when your child is begging for that contact. That's the insanity of the city of Seattle.
Well,
I presume King County is going to bring prosecution the very next week to put him in prison even longer somehow, on charges related to the ex, and it's like they're bringing domestic violence charges without any allegation that actually any violence ever occurred by him ever to anybody. In fact, all the police reports are of his ex physically assaulting him. I mean, it's insanity at multiple levels. But because he's a pro se litigant, the whole system has crushed him. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, he filed suit, dismissed their case without even allowing him to brief it.
I presume he's been declared a vexatious litigant, and I presume he might be an abrasive human I'm presuming a lot, but
well, and that's the other thing is, I mean, you watch him in court. I mean, the people can see prior proceedings where he's been in court. Very diplomatic, very polite, very proper. There's literally nothing of what you would expect to see in a case where the city and county are trying to effectively imprison someone for life, and you dig it and. Like the district court and Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals just got it completely wrong. I mean, the bottom line is the courts were too cowardly and too lazy to do their job, right? If the Ninth Circuit had done its job, it would have. I had made an appearance in the case to say, hey, this case is significant. The Ninth Circuit didn't want to hear about it and quickly rushed to dismiss his case without even reviewing the briefing. And if they would have spent any time, he brought legitimate ADA and discrimination claims. The district court said everybody was immune. As we'll get into later, no state officer is immune from federal civil rights claims. You might have qualified immunity as a defense, but you're not automatically immune. There's not automatic sovereign immunity. Same with the public estates or public accommodations. When they're operating in public accommodation, they're not immune from the public accommodation. So yet that's what the federal district court said. The Ninth Circuit said it's so obvious as that's the case, you can't even appeal it. And it's what's happening is they've decided to label them, and then once they label them, discriminate against them, punish them again and again and again and again. And they deny them the opportunity to go to court, deny them the right to bring suit, deny them the right to bring petition for redress of grievances, deny them the right to have meaningful hearings, deny them the right to have meaningful notice. And they're just used to, and they're saying, the city of Seattle and King County is saying, if you challenge us, we'll put you in prison for life. I mean, murderers will let walk. Rapists will let walk. Sexual assaulters will let walk. Pedophiles will let walk. Bill Gates lives in Washington. Have they done a follow-up on his Epstein connection? He's going to be on that Epstein list, folks. Find the betting markets. You'll see Bill Gates' name is a heavy favorite to be listed in the Epstein list. You know who else a heavy favorite? Bill Clinton. Has the city of Seattle ever investigated any of them? No, they're too busy putting people who file suits in prison for life because they don't like them challenging the system. That's why I call it senseless in Seattle. It is insane. And they're rushing these cases. I mean, the case that he got sentenced to on the city grounds, they wouldn't allow him even a brief continuance for me to represent him in the case. They're going to sentencing within 6 months of an indictment, which is almost unheard of in the state of Washington. I mean, it's like that gives you an idea for how just nuts this is.
Well, no, I've had a few vexatious clients, at least back in my time as a lawyer, and you know that they're. It depends if they're like off their meds bipolar or they're just people who have pissed off the administration. By the looks of this one, it looks like he sued the administration, sued 70 city employees, and is public. You know, he's obviously persona non grata, but they view him as a threat, whatever, and so they're going to use their powers
for seeking redress of grievances through the court system. They always treat pro se people bad, but this is a whole new level, and it's what happened with COVID. It unleashed the power madness of liberal democratic jurisdictions. And think about if they can just circumvent all your fundamental rights as a parent by just having a court somewhere issue a no contact order without going through all the preliminary findings. Because there's all these findings that a state has to go through in order to do so. And what the state is saying, yeah, those rules apply, but only if we're using that process. If we decide to just ignore that process, we don't have to abide by any of it. It would be a complete evisceration of the fundamental right to parent. If you can go to prison for years for responding to your own teenage son's inquiries and requests to talk, then you don't have a right of parenthood. And again, there's been no allegation at all that he's done anything wrong towards his son at all, other than simply responding to his text. I mean, it's just nuts. It's beyond insanity.
You were talking about it during one of your Bourbon with Barnes last week, which is, you have to remain sufficiently passionately involved in the case to care about it, but not so much so that it consumes you. I couldn't ever get to the not letting it consume you part. This would make me have a breakdown. Like I wouldn't be able to deal with a case like this.
It's frustrating. So I'll be up there for the sentencing Monday afternoon, and then the court's going to decide whether or not I'd request a continuance because we got hundreds of hours of videotape testimony just a few weeks ago, or videotape evidence that needs to be reviewed. The court, for the time being, has denied it. So at this point, we go to trial next week in King County, and that's a King County case, and looking at trial for several weeks there in King County. So it's getting, it's one of the wildest cases I've ever had to deal with. Very difficult case because the judicial system is all hostile, the prosecutors are all hostile, police hostile, everybody's hostile to this guy who's. You dig in, he's like, what did he do to really cause all of this? And it's basically just to use the legal system to try to get redress of grievances and refuse to go along easily with COVID vaccine and mask mandates. And it's they went nuts, in my view, in Seattle. But there's nothing stopping them right now. No, every court is piling on rather than saying, hold on a second, this is getting a little excessive.
You'll be sleepless in Seattle, pun intended. Robert, before we get into the topics of the night, have you been following Milei's crypto coin scandal?
Yes, in part.
Okay.
So we have tonight the SCOTUS agenda. So we've had the Supreme Court's brief ruling on Trump, emergency ruling on Trump. civil rights before the Supreme Court, key TAM fraud claims before the Supreme Court, Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act before the Supreme Court, evidence issues about due process of law and habeas petitions in criminal cases, also before the Supreme Court, parental rights before the federal circuits, First Amendment rights before federal courts, indentured servitude being alleged has an illegal immigration or immigration visa abuse tie-in as well, big class action, brought in the healthcare space, no less. DOGE, of course, in federal courts. When is the high seas the high seas? Courts continue to expand congressional criminal jurisdiction in ways way beyond what our founders anticipated. And then the making some money as we speak in the German elections. One thing I'd point out to everybody out there is that I'd put out a bet that I didn't think the big three parties, the Greens, the so-called the center left, and the so-called center right parties would get more than 2/3 of seats. However, if you bet that on Cauchy, please note Cauchy has defined that as 2/3 of the minimum number of seats. So it's like 399 seats. That is much more likely to get than the actual more than 2/3 of actual seats. The actual seats are likely to be 630 or more. But Cauchy, somebody at Cauchy, frankly misconstrued how to frame the question, because the question is contradicted by the rules interpreting the question. And this will continue to be an issue. In Polymarket, for example, last year, if you bet on the Venezuelan election and Maduro to win, you somehow lost the bet. How? Polymarket's rules decided they were going to allow American media authorities to tell you who won the election, not the government of where the person's actually being elected. So you do have to pay attention to these rules, because sometimes they contradict common sense.
I'm told that that's called rule suck, and I think I might have been on the receiving end of that, where I had predicted that Eric Adams was going to get a pardon, or a reprieve, and what happened to him was not deemed to be a reprieve in the constitutional sense, even though they came in and said we're going to withdraw without prejudice your suit.
The court has temporarily refused to, once these independent. It's the Flynn case all over again, where judges don't like politically motivated judges, don't like dismissals, and are trying to force the Justice Department to prosecute bogus cases. So the judge is kind of a nut in the Adams case, and that's what we're seeing. And we're seeing, a mixture of crazy courts doing crazy things, and sensible courts in all of these different cases. And so it'll be interesting to see how it shakes out in the end.
Well,
concerning Trump, the bureaucracy, deep state, DOGE, Musk, etc.
Well, start with Germany, people. First of all, I'm showing you my quote tweet and not my reply to Democratic Wins Media, because I was slightly less polite in my response. They put out a tweet. Like, I think this is called gaslighting. I think I'm going crazy, because the tweet says, breaking, Elon Musk's ultra-far-right AfD party got completely destroyed in German elections. Musk is being rejected.
Yeah, that's a completely fake thing. So first of all,
these numbers are accurate.
Well, not only that, that's actually low. AfD is close to 21% now. So, because I had a bet of AfD over 20%. And so they initially said AfD, which has never got, I think, more than 10 or 11%.
No, 10.5% in 2021.
Exactly. And usually we're low single digits, is now the second biggest party in Germany. And is the dominant party amongst the working class of Germany. The working class of Germany, you'll see it be represented geographically, because in Germany, there's more working class in the eastern section than in the western section of Germany. The old ex-communist part of the country has more working class people. But if you just look at working class precincts across all of Germany, their number one party is AfD. So there's a populist left party that's right on the verge of getting that 5% to get a seat or not. We'll see if they get there. They're like 4.9%. The old left parties around 7 or 8. But basically the two big institutional center left and left parties, the Greens in this case, because Der Linke is the far left, which is the ex-communist party. The Greens got collapsed in public support. There's just a complete rebuke of them. They're not even going to get 15% of the vote. And the SPD, this will be, I think, the lowest level of support they've ever received, and maybe in the history of German elections. It's good. I mean, it's right around 15%, and this is a party that's used to getting around 30%. So like half of its support. So in fact, Germany will be shocked by the election outcomes. Now, what's true is that the German establishment has agreed to cut out the left, their Die Linke party, and cut out AfD from any involvement in the government, so that you're going to have a government of the center left and the center right, and they're probably going to have to include the Greens in it. Maybe not. They can probably, if they exclude the Greens, it's just the center left, center right parties back to managing the country. And nothing better indicates what the problem of European politics when you can vote for the opposing party and it's the exact same thing as voting for the prior party. So the issue is not that the German public is at a record level of being upset, especially its working class, and that's what the vote represents. The fact that they can continue to use the corruption of the institutional parties to suppress the German protest vote is an indication of the problem of corruption in German elections, of institutionalized corruption in their elections, than it is any kind of rebuttal or rebuke. The odds were that AFD would get under 20%. I had bets that they would get over 20, that they would get over 25. The 25 was a long shot bet. It was like a 10-1 bet. And they're already approaching 21. They'll probably get a little over 21 when it's all said and done. Right about where the polls had them, 2021, 2022. But this is at or above average performance, way above average, and even above polling. So if you see any statements, Musk rejected, right rejected, that's an utter lie and a fabrication by the media.
No, I had to look it up. It's like, are the graph you're showing shows them at 20%, second largest party. I'm like, is the graph wrong? Am I misreading something? And then you go back and say, yeah, they doubled from 2021. It's their best result ever, and that's gaslighting of the highest order. And then Musk's party, Musk has
it's concentrated in class socioeconomically. It's entrenched. So the other problem is, what happens if the center left, center right doesn't solve anything? Doesn't solve the immigration problem over the next 3 or 4 years. Doesn't solve the energy problem over the next 3 or 4 years. Doesn't solve the Ukraine problem over the next 3 or 4 years. And doesn't solve the various issues of environmental regulation and the like related to its energy and economy problems. Then the only place people have to go is the AFD, the Der Linke, the left communists, and then the new left populist party. That's the only place they have to go. So they're setting themselves up for failure. The only thing that's going to save them is Trump getting a peace deal in Ukraine, giving them the political green light to turn back on the nuclear energy and the coal and get the oil and whatnot from Russia. That's the only thing that could salvage them. Otherwise, Germany is in for a long winter economically and otherwise because of its energy and immigration policies.
Okay, that's it. It's good news. I'm gonna see if I can get Christine Anderson to come back on and talk about it, because it is objectively good news, and it's as good as it could have gotten, pretty much. What do we start? Let's start with the big one. Two big ones: DOGE and Rumble. Rumble is, well, I say, we're speaking of one not corrupt government, but one incompetent government, and then you come right over to Brazil, which is corrupt, incompetent, and very malicious. The breaking news was that Rumble is now seeking a temporary restraining order against de Moraes personally, as they're suing him personally in Brazil, because they filed a motion the other day, which was for declaratory relief, to declare that these gag orders, these demands of suppressing content from U.S.-based content creators are unconstitutional, violent of the law, bypass the existing procedure for recognizing foreign judgments, foreign orders, and they've issued. They made a motion for a temporary restraining order, filed it this morning, and it's basically asking that these gag orders that have already been issued by Judge de Moraes be declared unlawful. De Moraes, for those who don't know, he ascended to power after his predecessor died in a plane crash while investigating the Operation Car Wash corruption, which involved high-ranking government officials, judicial officials, corporations. De Moraes, who had very minimal court experience, he had some prosecutorial experience, rose to power. He's become a dictator on the bench. They threatened to shut down Elon Musk. They said you got to have representatives in Brazil if you're carrying out business in Brazil, so that we can serve on them and we can jail them if you don't comply with our court orders. Elon ultimately, he succumbed and he paid the fees and the fines and agreed to censor the accounts that they asked for to be censored. They were always Bolsonaro accounts. Chris Pavlovsky has never said yes. They don't do business in Brazil, and they're going after accounts that are based in America. The lawsuit alleges that de Moraes set aside the unlawfulness of the orders, is bypassing existing protocol, existing legislation, existing international agreements for the recognition of foreign judgments, And I don't want to get ahead of myself. I mean, I think de Moraes is a criminal, and I think that Chris should never step foot in Brazil. But the lawsuit seems very sound. I mean, it seems very legitimately based in censorship of free speech. They call it disinformation, misinformation. It's going after your political rivals for the for the party that's in power. I mean, what do you make of it? What do you make of the way Rumble's going about it? And what do you think Pavlovsky's exposure is going forward if he were to step foot in Brazil?
Yeah, probably has to avoid that for now under Lula Silva. I mean, Silva, the president, is going after the former president of Brazil, Bolsonaro. Brought all kinds of they're trumping Bolsonaro in Brazil, bringing all kinds of charges related to the prior election in Brazil, which shows that the whatever old labor roots the current Brazilian president has, Lula, he's lost. I mean, it's now like the Seattle Benzouf case.
Mm-hmm.
The left has become obsessed with power. And all they care about is weaponizing that power against their political opponents. And that's like in the Benzouf case, they accused him of weaponizing the legal system. It's like, what, by petitioning for redress of grievance? Weaponizing the legal system is what the judges are doing. It's what the prosecutors are doing. It's what the opposing parties are doing. It's what they're doing in Brazil, is weaponizing the legal system.
They're
seeking
charging.
remedy.
I don't know if you heard this. They're charging Bolsonaro for a alleged attempt to poison Lula. I mean, it's.
And some of this stuff is loony stuff that makes no sense, but it's the kind of thing they think they can get away with in Brazil. So I told my friends on the left that Lula was not the same Lula. This was not the labor advocate from the old 70s days fighting the totalitarian dictatorship. This was a Lula that had been corrupted by his time in power, took bribes from U.S. Connected people to, for example, he took bribes on behalf of Bill Clinton repeatedly, and others. And so I was part of cases that were part of exposing those bribes. So that's who Lula is. There was some naivete on the left that he was this old school labor civil rights. It's like, nuh-uh, you're going to discover otherwise. And he's been worse than his predecessors by far. The question is, when can anyone seek relief in U.S. courts when foreign governments are abusing their powers against them and trying to reach into the United States and threaten people in the United States? To me, once they do that, like the EU did with Elon Musk, like Brazil is now doing with Chris Pavlovsky and Rumble, they are now subject to U.S. jurisdiction. That's a deliberate choice. Now, definitely it's the case, as we'll get to the High Seas case later under the court's interpretation. It's very broad U.S. jurisdiction. We're nowhere near as broad as U.S. courts are. But under U.S. court's current jurisdiction, there's no question that Rumble has a claim. But even under a more constricted definition of U.S. authority, I would agree in this instance they do, because they're threatening U.S. companies, they're threatening U.S. citizens unless they agree to censorship in ways that violate our rights and liberties. And that's a deliberate choice, and it'll make it so that Brazilian judge can't step foot outside of Brazil. Mm-hmm. Make him subject to potential civil and criminal cases. The U.S. Justice Department's Civil Rights Division should be looking at this, and other components of the Justice Department should be looking at this, because this needs to be shut down. It relates to Vance's speech in Europe to the European Union and the rest of them at the Munich Security Conference, talking about America doesn't have much in common with Europe these days. Europe is busy trying to undermine the core American values and liberties of Americans from Europe. And it's like, why should we spend lots of money defending you when you won't spend any time defending us, but are instead attacking us? And the way in which that could be in part remedied is for the U.S. government to take a proactive role in preventing these foreign governments from engaging in these kind of activities when they target U.S. activity, U.S. citizens, or U.S. businesses.
I did forget one major detail is the co-plaintiff is Truth Media. So it's literally Trump's company that is being pursued by Bolsonaro, or the object of these unlawful orders. And he might have a favorable jurisdiction. The suit was filed in Florida. So it's fantastic. I put out a video earlier today. People can go read the highlights and watch the video. It's up there on Rumble. But it's good stuff. All right, and then the next one. Do we do Doge here, or do we do Doge over on Rumble? We're 55 minutes in.
Well,
get your butts.
Yeah, I think I was thinking we would start maybe the SCOTUS High Seas case, since it kind of correlates thematically to the Rumble case.
Okay, do the SCOTUS High Seas case now, and I'll make sure everybody gets the link. Get your butts on over to Rumble, and then after this, we're going to go to Rumble and carry on with the show there. What's this one about?
So this is about the felonies clause of the U.S. Constitution. So the U.S. Constitution provides that Congress has the power to, quote, define and punish piracies and felonies committed on the high seas and offenses against the law of nations. So you can see what the founders, the founding generation, which I include as the people who voted for and approved the Constitution, including conditioning it on access to the Bill of Rights in the first Congress. What were they thinking? And not just the limits of those people who were at the Constitutional Convention or who penned the terms. I think there tends to be a too narrow focus in originalist interpretation, when to me what matters is what made it binding. What made it binding was people's approval of it. So what you need to know is what did they think these provisions meant at the time. And to me, what Congress was getting at were crimes beyond the power or effective reach of the states. That crimes committed on the high seas, like piracy and the like, were crimes that would be difficult for a state government to be in a position to either right or simply enforce. So that's the idea they're getting at. It has been interpreted as a massive expansion of federal power. Basically, I don't know if the courts have said no yet to a case brought under this provision. So to give you an idea for what's happening, the DEA, for example, or like the Lord of War case, where that guy was given back to Russia, you have people arrested who are not U.S. citizens for doing things outside of the United States that didn't even implicate the United States. And so this was the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, and they said that Congress has such broad sway over the definition of first of all, they said international law didn't matter as to the definition of words, which strikes me as problematic given the whole historical intention of this provision of the Constitution was to have the national government governing international concerns, which they've acknowledged in other contexts, just not in this one. Somebody gets arrested for trying to transport drugs from Colombia to Panama. Nothing to do with the U.S. They don't even allege it has any tie to the U.S. Person's not an American. Ship's not an American. Nobody on the ship is American. None of the recipients are American. No allegation the product is intended to come to America. Purely foreign. And you hear the U.S. saying, oh, yeah, we have jurisdiction to prosecute those crimes. And it's like, based on what? Well, you were in the high seas, you see. And they're like, we weren't in the high seas. We're in the economic zone of a particular nation, which is a part of its extended territorial waters. And the court was like, no, territorial waters just means like the 12 feet or so, 12 miles maybe max off your coast. That's it. It can mean nothing else, even if international law has changed that over time. They said, we're going to ignore that. So that basically you can just call high seas if you're out on water. Now, the U.S. government has the authority to arrest you and imprison you with no other ties to America whatsoever. So they've effectively expanded and extended high seas jurisdiction to where it has no meaning. And you'll see a lot of conservatives go along with this because they love what unites federal judges on the left and the right is their propensity for authoritarianism. That's the only thing that really unites them. That both on the left and the right, they love to give the government power to punish wherever and whenever they can, unless it's one of their protected allies. Then it's like, hold on a second. You can't take away their benefits. You can't take away their job. You can't supervise. Oh, no. Let's not go too far. You're only supposed to punish ordinary people. That's who you're supposed to crush with your judicial power. That's what judges really believe. That's why I say that disproportionately you will find no higher rate of sociopaths and psychopaths than America's judicial branch of government.
I would say maybe also among lawyers as well. But all right, everybody, here's the link. By the way, if you see me saying here's the link to Locals and you see it in Locals or Rumble, it's because I'm using the all feature on Studio. I could probably do the other one. Let me read a few Rumble rants while everyone moseys their butts on over to Rumble or vivabarneslaw.locals.com. And we've got a bunch. I'm throwing a surprise topic in that involves, speaking of threats and what qualifies as a threat. King of Biltong says, increase your protein intake with some great tasting meat snacks. Biltong is packed with B12, creatine, iron, zinc, and much, much more. Get some at biltongusa.com. Use code VIVA for 10% off. Today, someone had you sent an email to Biltong saying, you've inundated all of the podcasts. It's really annoying. Also known as advertising, dumb bum. So whoever wrote that email, you should be ashamed of yourself. Kupu Onderson says, Viva, why do we not hear about no bird flu in Mexico? Why do we not? It's true. I haven't heard any bird flu. They're not killing chickens in Mexico. I guess they probably have eggs there. V6 Neon says, please tell me that people outside the UK saw that the UK Labour Party are sending police after voters of opposition political parties or who dares question what the government is doing. And we got Bulldozer 7074 says, Ashton Clare, Conservative SOP. Da brew that do just threw in here. It says, Yar matey, Styx has been dressing like a pirate. Now pirate talk here. Now pirate talk here. Did the theme go out? No, it certainly didn't. And I'm still have to have that debate with Biltong. Not Biltong, Styx, X, and Hammer about something. Everybody, I'm going to ask Robert what he thinks about that Brian Garcia letter that he got over on Rumble. So get your butts on over there. The link is pinned in YouTube. So go, come, and if not, see you tomorrow. I will be live. Oh, with the woman who's being spied on by the Irish government. I forget her name now, but tomorrow, 12:30. So gonna have a good show tomorrow. Updating the stream. Come on over to Rumble or vivabarneslaw.locals.com.